Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talking Davos. This evening, we have a very special guest, and our guest is...
Indeed, he is none other than Wale Tinubu, who is the CEO of Oando Group, a Pan-African energy conglomerate, but perhaps even more important for our community. He is, Oando is a community partner for shapers across Africa. It's such a pleasure to have you. Welcome to Talking Davos.
Welcome, Wale. Please tell us about your childhood dreams.
Childhood dreams. I always wanted to do something spectacular. I was quiet when I was growing up, but my mind wasn't quiet. My mind always wanted to challenge things. I wanted to break records. I wanted to do something which would have a collaborative impact on a society. In other words, dealing with other people, putting them together, shepherding them, and then marching in a common cause. But I couldn't quite figure out what the cause was. But I knew that was the direction I wanted to go.
And who inspired you the most when you were a child?
Definitely my parents. I mean, I think when it came to discipline and the ability to make commitments, right? To be trustworthy, to be credible, that definitely came from my dad. Because unfortunately, I had a father who, when I said I'd be home at 10, if I came home at 10:05, he'd look at me and say, "That's not good enough, you know. I don't mind you coming late, but you made a commitment to come at 10. So if you can't make it at 10, then you're letting somebody down." And that sort of that worked very well in terms of driving the kind of character I had when it came to commitments I made to our stakeholders in business, in terms of bankers, shareholders, service people we provided services to, and indeed making commitments creates credibility. And then I think on my mercantile side, my mother probably was my biggest influence. She taught me that it was okay to be passionate yet strong. You know what I mean? And also, she actually gave me my own commercial leaning. She was the businesswoman in my family, and I think I learned the commercial instincts from watching her, right from a very, very tiny age, wheel and deal in her own way.
Commercial instincts from the mom and commitment from the dad.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Very interesting. And perhaps that word commitment. The World Economic Forum, our logo here, is committed to improving the state of the world. You talked about your commitments to stakeholders. I'm really interested, I think we both are, I know your commitments, your personal commitments, perhaps to humanity.
Humanity. Well, I mean, I think that certainly in what we touch, I try and certainly make a difference. In all our business endeavors, in the communities we work in, we try and ensure that it's clear that, we had an expression, we used to call it the Oando way. We wanted to ensure that whatever we did was world-class in whatever we did, and that we left a world-class standard. And irrespective of our environment or where we came from, we wanted to be able to prove that, just because the way and manner things were done globally and the global standard had to be our own standard. And that has actually worked through our system.
And perhaps as a follow-up question to that, it's a lot that you manage, your personal space and professional space. What keeps you up at night?
It's never really interest rates or the more mundane things or exchange rate and all this. I feel those things are all like, they're things which come and go. They're cycles. You know what I mean? I think what keeps me up at night is not knowing whether I have the commitment of stakeholders who've committed to do things for and on our behalf. That's what bothers me. So, for example, if something is critical in a project which we're dealing with, and a supplier is supposed to deliver maybe piles to create a jetty we're building, and he says it'll be there on Tuesday. Okay, I worry until Tuesday. Okay, I always plan for the worst, because the worst usually happens. Yeah, and in a funny way, that's really the part, being let down, because consistently I found that the difference between success and failure is the fact that the guys who fail, or people who fail, are just happy not to flake on commitments in reality, and they don't have a personal feeling of regret when they make a commitment and don't deliver on that commitment. Now, if you think about it in a cycle and ecosystem, if everybody delivered on their commitments, then it's utopia in that society. But what happens is somebody drops the ball, and usually when they drop the ball, they don't make any excuses for it. There's a reaction, a counter reaction, and the system stops working. But then when everybody's committed, everybody's aligned, and that's why a company will work successfully, a society will work successfully, an institution like a hospital or a school works when everybody's aligned and everybody's in the right direction, everybody's marching in one consistent direction, and that's my own perspective.
And tell us about your first Davos experience and how it has been so far. How many times you've been here, and what brings you to Davos every year?
I think my first Davos experience was a real mind opener. I mean, I'd seen the pictures and you see the snow-capped mountains. I think I first went to I went first to the one in South Africa before I went to Davos. I went to one in South Africa and I went to one in Davos right after that. I've been coming here I think this is my 9th year, yes, consistent year. And I've actually committed myself that as long as I could afford it financially, which I expect to be able to, or health-wise, I would definitely come here every single year. Because for me, it's actually a period when I get to reflect. Because I spent in building the business, I was always spending so much time worrying about has the cargo arrived, has the ship discharged, is the refinery open, have we paid our loan, have we, what I mean, consistently all the issues you do when you're managing a business. And I'd never stopped to think that, what I mean, there was other things that occurred in the world, what I mean. I never looked at corporate social responsibility. I never looked at, like social entrepreneurs. That was a new concept when I discovered when I came here. I'd never seen a panel that had civil society, somebody with a religious perspective, somebody with a commercial perspective, somebody with a political perspective, all of a global reputation sit on the same table and exchange views. It was a real experience to me, and it was like it was really like going to. I thought, well, this is like modern day philosophy, if you ask me, and I really enjoyed it. And I promised myself that I would always use this week as a week where I would be able to get reignited with what's good in the world.
Wow, it's beautiful to get reignited with what's good in the world. What is good in the world?
Wow, what's good in the world? I think that I like the fact that the world is experiencing a major technological boost. I like the fact that technology is allowing developing economies to leapfrog years and years of underdevelopment. Okay, when I look at something as basic as telephones, and I see that in Nigeria we went from 400,000 phones to 100 million plus. Okay, I started a phone company. I was part of a group of young people who started a phone company, and we ran that business a lot from, what I mean, my dining table. We used to do it in the evenings every day until we won our license and we launched. Okay, and when I look back and I think to myself that we actually started that little revolution where one of those companies we did, and then I see somebody with a basket of fruit or whatever, a hawker selling stuff on the road, and she has a mobile phone and she stops. What I mean, takes off her basket, puts it down and makes a call. What I mean, or receives a text. And I say to myself, the world is changing. What I mean, our world is changing. And I think about the fact that people can now engage with the rest of the world from this global, whatever is new is available to everybody in an environment where without technology 10 years, 5 years ago, they would never have known what was going on in those places. So I like that. I like the way it's being utilized for medicine. I like the way it's being used in rural areas. And I think that's great in the world. You know what I mean? And I think similarly as technology has brought a lot of advantages, it's also brought a lot of challenges for us today, which I'm also happy with the way the world is beginning to deal with those challenges.
Yeah, just in the interest of time, this might be the last question I have. Like, what is your leadership style and how it has evolved over the years? And what is one key takeaway from this year's Davos?
My leadership style is one in which I try and set out a vision, make sure it aligns with the team, and I look for talent, and I charge them with that responsibility, and I try and restrain myself from getting involved in how they do it. I think the best form of leadership and the most effective way is to let people get on and make their mistakes, but be there to guide them. So I'm kind of like a shepherd with a stick, heading a flock in the direction I want them to go. I really like people transforming. It's always a great delight for me in my own environment anyway, when we identify somebody with talent. Usually they're not quite sure of themselves, and you give them responsibility, and you'll be surprised how, marvel as to how they suddenly take charge. And at the end of the day, you know what I mean, they come to you on issues, and it's always, well, here's our challenge, here are the options, you know what I mean, this is what I want to do, what do you think? And so effectively, you're only providing guidance. They're the ones who are actually leading.
It's beautiful.
Allow people to make mistakes and take charge to lead effectively. That's the message from the CEO of Oando Group, Wale Tinubu. Wale, thanks so much for joining us in the studios in Davos. Stay tuned for our next guest and follow #ShapingDavos.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, V. Thanks.